Hello, thank you for tuning in to a recorded presentation. Before we begin, please grab a piece of paper and something to write with. You'll be doing a few quick exercises along the way. So today I have a proposal for you. This is a presentation about including food systems in basic education. I have the what and why to present to you. My name is Mingla Charanmyeong. I am an Extension Associate at the Bronfman Brenner Center for Translational Research at Cornell University, and I work with the 4-H Youth Development as a health, wellness, and food systems specialist to help bring the program that teaches youth to understand a bigger picture in relationships and food systems. So when we come to the word food systems, I was reminded by my colleagues that this term is not familiar to everybody, not from the families who we serve in extension, and also the educators. Some of them are not familiar with the term either. So I want to start the presentation by talking about something that is more familiar, which is the body system. We know that there are several systems that work together to help our body function as a whole, and they're all dependent to each other. And we know about tissues and organs, things like that. The reason we know all of these, not only because we live in a body, but it's also because the body system is mandatory in basic education, why the food system topic is not. So, as a warm-up exercise, I want to invite you to be taking a moment to think about the process, traditions, and experiences. Please make a list of projects or activities related to food that you do with your family and or community. It could be something from like gardening, lemonade stand, shopping, food packaging, things like that. And I'll give you a moment to do that. So you can come up with more ideas while you're going through this second part of this assignment. Please categorize your list, the things that you come up with, the activities and projects, and use these 6 themes. Production, the process of growing crops, raising animals, or harvesting natural resources to create raw materials used for food. Processing, the transformation of raw ingredients into consumable products through methods like cooking, preserving, and packaging. Distribution, the transportation of food products from manufacturers to retailers and consumers. Retail, the sale of food products to consumers through stores, markets, or online platforms. Consumption, the act of purchasing, preparing, and eating food. Disposal, the process of discarding waste, including sorting materials for composting, recycling, or sending them to facilities. Did any new ideas come up when you explored the themes? So please review the list a little bit and look at if your list cover all six themes, which theme is most represented and which is least. Now we're going to change pace a little bit and look at a common suggestions for handling a complex problem. A lot of times when we hear about complex problems, people usually say to break it down. So it is a good tool, breaking it down, but is it enough? So breaking it down, if we don't put it back together, we will run the risk of oversimplifying things. We'll have isolated pieces that we don't see the connections that work together. So that yield fragmented solutions. So it's very important that not just breaking it down, we also have to put it together, look at it as like a holistic approach. Then we can get full context. We see the relationships of these complex problems, see patterns and interdependencies, and we can use integrated perspectives to address it. So, for example, we think about our body. I have chronic back pain, and if my doctor prescribe pain medication and suggest surgery, that's not holistic approach. We want to be thinking about other things like bones. Do I have broken bones? I do, by the way. And also my exercise habit, my posture, any other stressors that would contribute to that chronic back pain. So I think some of you might already benefit from holistic approach with your health. So that those are really great thing to compare with the food system and how the complexity can be addressed. If we only breaking it down, just like our education has been doing a lot, we have separate subject matters, we have different disciplines, things were not being put together as like integration or collaboration that we do. Those really, the breaking it down only really create disconnections. For example, this connection from nature, the original forms is hardly being recognized anymore. That these ingredients is food before it's being put together. It comes from a life, it comes from plants or animals. So without that respect to the life that give us the food, a lot of people might be thinking about wasting it without, recognizing it comes from another being. And there's a lot of agriculture literacy that's not, being realized here, whether it was from resources, energy, a lot of work that put into this food before it get to us. So the disconnection of nature from the land, this is a big thing. Some people might say, I hate tomatoes. Which one? There are 10,000 varieties of tomatoes, and they all have different texture, colors, flavor, all of these things. Like I used to deliver tomatoes to a cafeteria, and they only want the firm one and the one that has the right size that could fit very well in the slicer machine because they make a lot of sandwiches to students. And that is not really helpful when there are a lot of other types of tomatoes out there. Some of them taste divine, like a lot of heirloom tomatoes have a very flavorful and very somewhat mushy flavor, so that wouldn't fit very well with the slicer. So because we have sometimes the people, retailers have to be selective of what ship really well and what can stay in the store for longer times. We start losing that biodiversity. The disconnection from traditions and culinary skills. If you look at this picture, right, it's poke fun at there's no food in the house, only the ingredients that make up foods, right? So there's some culinary skills that need to be involved in putting these ingredients together to make it palatable, right? But right now, with our fast pace, we relies a lot on processed foods. Sometimes families no longer pass on the recipes and the skill sets to be able to put together really good dishes. So the disconnection from that really make people have limited choices on what they can make themselves to enjoy. And also that ties into some making poor health choices of what they should be selected to eat that nourish their body really well. Disconnected from logistics. In agriculture, we often say that we need to produce a lot of food in order to feed the growing population. But making a lot of food, producing more food, doesn't necessarily mean that the food will go to where it needs to go. And that's part of why we have a massive like food being wasted. And but at the same time, we also have hunger problem and food insecurity that people do not receive a lot of production that made. So it being tossed away and right away not nourishing the body. This connection from supply chain and end of life. Look at this person drinking a coffee cup. It say this person said this machine is great, so much less wasteful than making a whole pot of coffee. Well, at the same time, before these little plastic cup gets to this kitchen, it has come from raw material extraction from coffee plants and from oil to make the plastic to make these little cups and goes through a lot of manufacturing and transportation before it gets into this kitchen. And the end of life, the waste food piece that they were talking is not including this plastic, discarded plastic of these little cups afterwards. So one more exercise. Please take a moment to think about how you source the food you prepare and eat at home. Has it changed over time? And it's just some short reflection. So a lot of times nowadays we might be using something that look like this. It's a store that has a refrigeration system, temperature control, a lot of lights, and a shelf that has food that is already being through manufacturing processes. So I encourage workshop people to think about one positive word and one negative word that comes to mind regarding supermarkets. And because this is a recorded presentation, I can't hear directly from you. So I'm going to take some of the ideas from my workshop participants. The positive words that they came up with include convenient, choices, availability, efficient, and presentation. For negative words, we have expensive, processed, wasteful, overpackaged, and disconnected. So the reason I bring up supermarkets is because it's one of a really big and key component of modern food systems where we are at right now. In modern food systems, food is typically processed, packaged, and originated from all over the world. The activities are a substantial factor in employment and value addition, and they also use substantial amounts of energy, contributing significantly to greenhouse gas emissions. So we want to pay attention more on the food system, which is somewhat a new thing and not necessarily a thing that we teach in school. And my proposal to that is look at these six main activities from the activity that we did earlier. There's these processes from production, processing, distribution, retail, consumption, and disposal that is involved in this. So some of us might already been teaching part of that, part of the food system, whether it was from growing, agriculture, supply chain, farm to table. So those address a part of the food systems. But my proposal is we have to be looking at the whole life cycle. Otherwise, we'll be creating the disconnections that some of the examples I discussed about earlier. We want to look at this holistically. Another part, if you are curriculum development, professional, I do use this complex foods diagram to help guide me into thinking what else that I should not be missing because it's complex and have different components at play. If we compare to some of our body system, right? In our body, we need to eat, to drink, and to breathe. Just like food system, it needs inputs to go in there. And whatever goes in must come out. So those are some of the outputs. Same with the food system. We also have outputs from that. And we do have some influences on how we behave ours, like whether if the weather is one way we dress appropriately. We also have beliefs and research and information that influence how we behave, and that is exactly the same with the food system. So these are just some reminder and some framework that could help you if you are teaching this and want to be thinking of it more holistically. This could be a useful tool. So on your list, I'm not sure what they are, but they might include some of these activities and projects already. That's excellent. And I definitely have some more ideas to propose to how we can be learning and developing the skills to our audience to be think about these six main activities in the modern food systems that could really help strengthen that connections together. But the most important part is let's teach the whole life cycle, not just only part of it. Farm to table is not enough. We really need the disposal, this distribution parts as well, because these connections weaken our health, um, relationships, and communities. So the whatever activities that we are teaching, when we bring it back, we can also start with introduction to what is the big picture, these six main activities that influence our food systems and what is how it behaves. And also the conclusion piece of it that makes sure we address how the things that we do in class is part of this big picture of this life cycle. So another resource I want to introduce to you is the food system exploration curriculum. We have that as a free download, and we use this as teaching all six main activities and modern food systems, that there are lessons that you can use for free as a hands-on activities. And I also have the Instagram and Facebook Food Systems Thinker that contributing to some of the additional resources that might be useful to you. So thank you so much for your attention today, and really hope that my proposal about introducing food systems in the basics education so we all know about it and we all behave responsibility is something that we can work together to make it happen. Thank you so much for your attention again. Bye.